Today we're taking a look at the brand new 2022 Inline 3 from Prime Archery. Welcome back to Mike's Archery's YouTube, and we are taking a look at the new 2022 lineup from Prime Archery, and we have got one of the new Inline 3s. Now this new Inline Cam system is something that they have completely redesigned and done new for this year. And Prime, being up there in Michigan, is a great USA made bow. They're making all their parts up there in Michigan, and that's hopefully going to clear up some of the supply chain issues that we've seen in the past, keeping bows on the shelf if a Prime bow is something you're looking for. So the specs on this bow, the speed's coming in at 337 feet per second, and the axle to axle is at 33 inches on this bow. Now the overall cam length is 38 inches, so that's your full length of the cam to cam length. And then the brace height on this bow is 6.5 inches. Now one of the other specs we took the time to measure, and it is relative to the brace height of the bow, is the reflex build of the riser. And we measured this bow in at 4.5 inches of reflex, and that's how far the grip sits behind the limb pockets of this bow, and it does have some effect on the torque and ability to shoot this bow of how forgiving it is. Now the factory spec weight on this bow is 4.4 pounds, and we threw this on the scale, and we got 4.6 pounds with everything on it out of the box. Now we pulled the limb dampeners as well as the new dampeners on the lower part of the riser, and we got that down to spec weight at 4.4. It's nice to see that this bow is coming in right on spec of what Prime is saying. Now the draw length options on this new cam is going to go from 26 to 30.5 inches. So let's talk a little bit more about this inline cam system. And this is the completely redesigned cam that they've come with. If you're familiar with Prime in the past, they have had that parallel cam system. It's a wide track, double track design. There's a lot of extra strings and cables to be able to build that bow out. It gave you some stability through the shot as well as the draw cycle. Now this inline cam system does the same thing without having that extra wide cam and all the extra weight that that brought to it, as well as the extra strings and cables. So from our standpoint, that's a good thing. It's going to cut down on all those extra strings and cables if you got to go replace a set. And it goes back to a more traditional look. So if you didn't like the look of that extra wide double track cam, it's going to give it a more traditional look compared to some other bows on the market. Now what is a little different than what you're going to see in your standard, what I would consider a hybrid cam system from a lot of your other bow manufacturers, is that they took this cam and milled out where the cable rolls into it. So the cam is truly offset, and if you look at the cam rotation and where the cable sits on that cam, it actually sits in line with your string behind the string. Now most of your bow manufacturers, when they build a standard cam, your cables are sitting out off to the side of that cam, causing extra torque on the cables, causing extra torque on the cams, causing cam lean. So when they milled out this cam, not only does it at rest sit inside the cam, it also, once you get to full draw, it's beveled to pull that cable in line in behind the string, taking a lot of that torque and stress not only off the cams but off your cables, off the cable rod, all of that giving a more accurate shot and a more stable shot. Now this new inline cam system does give you the same balance as well as cam load throughout the draw cycle as their parallel cams did, but it does it with a more conventional looking cam. And of course it gives a much better look, in our opinion, from what the older cam styles were. It may have been a concern to some folks. There's just a lot of extra going on there, and a lot of times extra things are not good things. Now the other thing that it did is it gave it a cleaner nock travel with superior accuracy throughout that shot. So it still kept all the great things about the old cam system, but with a more traditional cam look. One of the other things that got built into this cam that we really liked from a shop standpoint is the shimming. So if you're familiar with working on other bows in the past, to change out shims, if you've got cam lean or you need to move your cam more to create center shot, take a paper tear out, whatever you're doing to tune, you would have to break that bow down in a press, pull the axles out, swap shims from left to right, possibly add thin shims, thick shims, however you needed to do that to get that cam to perform better. Prime has taken a lot of that extra work out by creating what appears to be a kind of a C-clip type situation on their shims. You're going to be able to, as a shop, take this bow, loosen up the axles, because the axles are not E-clipped in, they're actually screwed in. You're going to be able to loosen those axles out, take a tool specifically from Prime, push those shims out and replace those shims without a press. So you're going to be able to adjust this bow and work on this bow and tune this bow without having to put it in a press, even from a shimming standpoint. Now, some other manufacturers have used some other ways to not have to put it in a press to take those paper tears out and change out shims, but we really like what Prime did here. It's kind of a cool different take on being able to make those adjustments and really be able to make this bow shoot better and the way that you need it to do to get the best performance out of it. Now, this bow does come in a lot of draw weight options. You're going to be able to get this bow in everything from a 30-pound minimum all the way out to an 80-pound max. So every 10-pound increments, you're going to be able to get this bow to fit pretty much anybody regardless of your strength and where you want to be with this bow. So all the way from 30 to 80 on this bow. Now, the other thing about the cams is it does have a let off of 85% with a limb stop. So they brought back a limb stop option that's going to give it a really nice hard back wall to shoot off of, and it's going to give you 85% let off built into this cam. One of the other new technologies that they built into it are these rubber dampeners on the bottom edge of the riser near the limb pocket, taking more shock and vibration out of this riser and making a really good feeling shot coming out of this bow. Now, they did keep with some of their typical technology that they've had for the last several years, and some of that stuff hasn't changed. One being the riser build. It is still made out of that 82X aluminum, and it is the stiffest and lightest aluminum riser out there. It's a higher grade aluminum than what most all your other bow manufacturers are using when they machine this riser. It just gives it a stiffer overall feel, which in turn makes for a more accurate shot. The other thing that Prime kept was their Synergy riser build technology that they built into this bow. It gives you a solid hold on the target and less pin float, and that is the look where they've done differently than some other people with a cage type riser. They've put that offset in the riser that's just given it a nice stable platform to shoot off of. And one of the other things that they've kept was that nanotechnology grip that they've had. It's a two-piece grip, and then underneath it is that NASA approved material that gives a nice warm touch and a great feel. But overall, it's a great feeling grip, as well as giving it that shock absorption underneath it and a nice warm touch if things start getting cold. Now, Prime, I think, has probably the most extensive color options that we've seen out of most any other manufacturer. For starters, it comes in 6 solid color options. Now, obviously, your traditional colors like black, and then they've got a Morel, an Army Green, a Ridge Rock, which is new for this year, a Boulder Gray, and a Grizzly Brown. You can also get this in 7 different camo patterns. Some of them are your traditional patterns like your RealTree Edge or RealTree Excape, but you can also get this bow in Subalpine, the Elevated 2, a Morel Scar, a Kings XK7 camo, and Firstlight Fusion. And if that wasn't enough for you, you can get this bow outfitted as a target setup in several great looking target colors that are optioned with black or white limbs in a midnight blue riser, a deep red, a prism, a hammered penny, or a hammered gray. So a lot of color options out there. If this bow is something you're looking at, you can certainly customize this even way more so than any other manufacturer out there. Now, this bow is coming into a MAP retail of $11.99, putting it right there with most other people's flagship bow prices and one of the top end bows on the market. One of the other great features about Prime bows is if you make a purchase of a brand new Prime bow, they give you free strings for life. So every other year you can bring this bow back into your pro shop. They will order you brand new strings and cables and replace and put you a brand new set on there so you keep this bow tuned up, in spec, and shooting great. So we're going to step over to the lane now and take a few shots out of this bow, kind of give you a breakdown of the speed rating as well as the noise rating and just the overall feel of the bow. Now, normally we like to shoot these bows on 70 pounds, but unfortunately they sent in our sample models at 60-pound total weight. So we're going to be shooting these bows at a little less poundage than what we normally do. So just realize that's going to reflect in the speeds as well as the noise and the feel of the bow. We still will be shooting this bow with a 400 grain arrow at 29 inches and 85% let off on the cams with this 60-pound max. So we stepped over into the lane. We're going to take a few shots out of the new Inline 3 and kind of give you an idea of what the speed ratings as well as the noise level and just overall feel of this bow is. Now, we are usually shooting this bow on 70 pounds, but these sample models that we got in here early are only 60-pound maxes, so keep that in mind when you see these numbers pop up, that you are going to be seeing them quite a bit slower than you would at 70 pounds and probably a little quieter than you would at 70 pound as well. But we are shooting this bow on 60-pound max, still shooting the 400 grain arrow, still shooting it at 29-inch draw length and 85% let off. So let's see what kind of numbers this thing puts up. All right, so speed came in at 278, and we've been right there in the top end of the 270s. So again, you bump that up to 70 pounds, you're going to gain probably another 15 feet per second or so, just depending on the setup. So really, you know, not the fastest thing we've seen, but it's going to be in that mid 290 range if you put it back on 70 pounds. And that's pretty much spot on with a lot of bows that we've been testing. Now, some of them have broke that 300 mark, but this one is not. But still pretty nice speeds for the setup out of this new cam design from Prime. Now, as far as the noise rating on that bow, we're looking at 94.7. So really one of the quieter bows we've shot. That I'd have to go back and look at maybe the videos. You guys can comment down there because you guys watch it closely. But, you know, those Matthews have been really quiet, and I think that's borderline right there with some of those have been at 94.7 decibels. And it's noticeably quiet. When you shoot this bow, it's got a great feel and just really quiet. As far as the draw cycle, they've definitely got a good smooth draw cycle on this bow. And the back wall, that limb stop, is giving it a rock hard feel. You're not able to pull through. You're going to see some real consistency out of this bow sitting on that back wall with a limb stop. Now, as far as the after shot, it is definitely dead in the hand. And we're seeing that out of most everybody, but Prime is no different. It's got a great feel to it. Got all the hand shock taken out of it, whatever they've done redesigning that riser with some extra limb dampeners and things in there, and the riser dampeners, it's definitely taken a good feel on this bow. So something that you're looking for is a brand new Prime for this year, give us a call here at Mike's Archery and we'll get you set up with one.